The garden venue looked perfect. White chairs were arranged in neat rows, floral arrangements cascading from every available surface, and a string quartet played softly near the ceremony arch. My sister's wedding had turned out exactly as she'd envisioned when she'd come to me 9 months ago, desperate and overwhelmed. "I don't know what to do," Jessica had said that day in my kitchen, her laptop open to a spreadsheet of wedding costs. "Brian's parents can only contribute $10,000 and Mom and Dad have nothing saved. The venue alone is $25,000. I'm going to have to cancel everything and just do a courthouse ceremony." She had been near tears. Jessica had always dreamed of a real wedding, the kind she'd planned in notebooks since we were teenagers. I watched her face crumble as she realized that dream wasn't financially possible. "What if I helped?" I had offered quietly. "You?" She looked surprised. "I mean, that's sweet, but you have the kids and your job. I can't ask you to spend your savings on my wedding." "You didn't ask. I'm offering. Let me look at your numbers." I reviewed her budget, suggested some adjustments, and ultimately agreed to cover the major expenses: venue, catering, photography, flowers. The total came to $62,000. I wrote the checks without hesitation, made the deposits and signed the contracts, all in my name. "Are you sure?" Jessica asked, grateful but uncertain. "This is so much money." "I'm sure. Just promise me one thing. Don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll make it into a whole thing and I'd rather just help you have your day without drama." She agreed, hugging me tightly. "Thank you. I'll pay you back, I promise." "Just be happy," I said. "That's all the payment I need." Now, standing in that beautiful garden 9 months later, watching guests arrive and admire the expensive details, I felt a quiet satisfaction. My sister looked radiant in her dress. The weather had cooperated perfectly. Everything was going according to plan. My 2 children sat beside me. My daughter, Sarah, 9 years old, in a light blue dress she'd picked out herself, and my son, David, 7, in a little suit that made him look absurdly grown up. They'd been excited about the wedding for weeks, asking questions about the ceremony, wondering if they could try the fancy food. My mother arrived with my father, both dressed formally. She surveyed the venue with an approving expression, nodding at the flowers, the chairs, the elegant setup. She didn't acknowledge me beyond a brief nod. Our relationship had been strained for years, ever since I chose a different career path than she'd approved of. She wanted me to follow her into nursing. Instead, I studied software engineering, worked my way up through various tech companies, and eventually started consulting independently. The money was excellent, but my mother never respected it. Technology work wasn't real in her mind, not like medicine, law, or the traditional professions she valued. "You play with computers all day," she'd said dismissively more than once. "It's not a serious career." The fact that my consulting brought in more money than her nursing salary ever had seemed irrelevant to her. She decided I was unsuccessful, and no evidence would convince her otherwise. I drove a practical car, lived in a modest house, and dressed my children in normal department store clothes. In her eyes, these were signs of failure rather than intentional choices. The ceremony was beautiful. Jessica cried during her vows. Brian looked genuinely moved. The string quartet played precisely on cue. Everything I'd paid for came together exactly as planned. Afterward, guests moved to the reception area, another section of the garden transformed into an elegant dining space. Round tables with white linens, centerpieces of roses and peonies, and soft lighting as the sun began to set. The catering staff, professionals I had personally vetted, began serving appetizers. My children were well behaved, sitting at our assigned table and watching everything with wide eyes. David whispered questions about the flowers. Sarah pointed out details in the decorations she found pretty. They were good kids, thoughtful and curious, a little shy in large social gatherings but perfectly polite. My mother stopped by our table, champagne glass in hand. Several other relatives stood nearby, chatting in small groups. She looked around the venue again, then at my children, then at me. "These kids are such a burden at this beautiful wedding," she announced, her voice carrying to the surrounding tables. I told Jessica she should have made it adults only. The words landed like a physical blow. I watched my children's faces change. Sarah's smile disappeared. David's shoulders hunched. They both looked down at their laps, suddenly small and hurt. Around us, conversations faltered. Relatives turned to look. I could see the discomfort on their faces. the second-hand embarrassment at such a cruel public statement. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger exactly. More like absolute clarity. I smiled politely at my mother and pulled out my phone. The wedding planner's number was easy to find. I'd been calling her regularly for 9 months. "Hi, Margaret," I said when she answered. "This is going to sound strange, but I need you to cancel everything. Stop all services immediately." "I'm sorry, what?" Margaret's confusion was evident. "Cancel what?" "The wedding. All of it. Catering, music, photography. Everything stops now." There was a pause. "Miss Patterson, I need to clarify. You're the primary contact on all the contracts. You have the authority to do this. But are you certain? The reception has just started." "I'm certain. Please notify all vendors immediately." "Understood. I'll begin the process now." I hung up and looked at my mother. She was staring at me with an expression of confused annoyance. "What was that about?" she demanded. Jessica appeared at our table, her face bright with happiness. "Isn't everything gorgeous? I can't believe how perfect it all turned out." "It is beautiful," I agreed. "But I'm afraid there's been a change of plans." "What kind of change?" Jessica's smile faltered. I pulled up my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved all the receipts, all the payment confirmations. I'd kept meticulous records. Every deposit, every final payment, every contract signed. "This kind," I said, turning the screen so both Jessica and my mother could see. "The venue contract. $65,000 total paid. Signed by me. Dated 9 months ago." Jessica's face went pale. "What are you showing me?" "The receipts for your wedding. All of them. I paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the quartet, the entire event. Every single expense went on my credit card and was paid in full." My mother grabbed the phone, scrolling through the documents. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something close to shock. "This can't be right," she said. "You don't have this kind of money." "I do actually. My consulting firm has been quite successful. But that's beside the point now." Margaret, the wedding planner, approached our table with quick, professional steps. "Miss Patterson, I've contacted the vendors. The caterers are stopping food service. The photographer is packing up his equipment. The quartet will finish their current piece and then leave. The bar service is closing now." Jessica stood abruptly. What? What's happening?" "I'm canceling the wedding reception," I said calmly. "Not the marriage itself. That's legal and done. But the party, the celebration, all the services I paid for, those are ending." "You can't do that." Jessica's voice rose. Nearby guests were definitely watching now. "I can actually. My name is on every contract. Margaret can confirm." Margaret nodded uncomfortably. "That's correct. Ms. Patterson is the client of record for all services." My mother's face turned red. "This is ridiculous. You can't ruin your sister's wedding over nothing." "Over nothing?" I looked at my children, still sitting quietly, their earlier joy completely extinguished. "You publicly called my children a burden. You humiliated them in front of everyone here. At a wedding they were excited to attend and at a wedding I paid for entirely." "I didn't mean it like that," my mother backtracked quickly. "How did you mean it, then? Explain to me the kind interpretation of telling everyone my children are burdens at this beautiful wedding." She couldn't. Around us, relatives were whispering, putting pieces together. The bartender was covering bottles. Catering staff were quietly removing serving trays. "Wait," my father interjected, finally speaking. "You paid for all of this? The whole wedding?" "Yes. Jessica came to me 9 months ago because you and Mom had no savings to help her, and Brian's family could only contribute $10,000. She was going to cancel her dream wedding, so I covered the rest." Jessica was crying now, but not the happy tears from the ceremony. "You told me not to tell them." "I did. Because I knew it would become about me and Mom instead of about you. I wanted you to have your day without family drama. But apparently that wasn't possible." The photographer approached, his camera bag already packed. "Miss Patterson, I'm heading out. Per your instructions." "Thank you," I said. A guest called out, confused. "Is the wedding over? Are we supposed to leave?" I stood up, addressing the gathering crowd. "I apologize for the disruption. Due to family circumstances, the reception is ending early. Thank you all for coming to witness the ceremony. A murmur of confused conversations spread through the garden. Guests began gathering their things, unsure what was happening but clearly understanding something had gone very wrong. My mother grabbed my arm. You're destroying your sister's wedding out of spite. No, I said quietly, removing her hand. I'm protecting my children from a grandmother who sees them as burdens. Jessica still got her ceremony, her legal marriage, her beautiful venue for the pictures. What she's not getting is a celebration hosted by someone whose children were just publicly humiliated. Jessica sank into a chair. I didn't know you paid for everything. Mom said she and Dad had taken care of it. They lied to you, I said simply. Did you never wonder who was making all those vendor payments? I thought they were handling it. They said not to worry about the finances. My father looked stricken. We were going to tell her eventually. When? I asked. After the wedding? After you'd taken credit for something I did. He didn't answer. My mother's shock was wearing off, replaced by anger. You make good money playing with computers and suddenly you think you're better than everyone? You think you can control us with your money? I don't think I'm better than anyone. But I do think my children deserve respect. And I think actions have consequences. You wanted to publicly humiliate them at an event I funded. Now you're experiencing the consequences of that choice. Margaret touched my arm gently. All vendors have been notified and are departing. I'll send you a final accounting of any cancellation fees by tomorrow. Thank you, Margaret. You've been wonderful to work with. She left and I turned to my children. Sarah, David, let's go home. They stood immediately, relief visible on their faces. They'd been sitting through the entire confrontation with impressive composure, but I could see the stress in their posture. As we walked toward the parking lot, I heard Jessica crying harder, my mother's voice raised in anger, my father trying to calm everyone down. Guests were streaming out, clearly uncomfortable and confused. My phone buzzed. A text from my uncle. What just happened? Everyone's leaving. I didn't respond. In the car, Sarah spoke first. Are you okay, Mom? I'm fine, I said, turning to look at both of them. Are you two okay? David nodded slowly. Grandma was mean. Yes, she was. And that's not acceptable. I don't want you to ever think you're burdens. You're the best part of my life. Sarah leaned forward from the back seat. Did you really pay for Aunt Jessica's whole wedding? I did. That's a lot of money. It is. And I was happy to do it for your aunt, but not at the cost of you two being disrespected. We drove home in relative quiet. My phone continued buzzing with messages. Jessica, my father, various relatives. I ignored them all. At home, I made grilled cheese sandwiches and we watched a movie together, my children curled up on either side of me on the couch. By the time they went to bed, they seemed mostly recovered from the earlier hurt. I stayed up, finally reading through the messages. Jessica's were apologetic, explaining she genuinely hadn't known, that she was grateful but devastated. My father's were confused, asking if we could talk. My mother's were defensive and angry. I responded only to Jessica. I'm sorry your day ended badly. But I'm not sorry for protecting my kids. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. The next morning, Margaret sent the final accounting. Most services had already been delivered or prepared, so the actual financial loss from the cancellation was minimal. The biggest impact was social. The sudden ending, the confused guests, the family drama made public. My phone rang. My father. I need you to understand something, he said without preamble. Your mother was wrong to say what she said. But destroying Jessica's wedding wasn't the answer. Jessica's wedding happened. She's married. She had her ceremony, her venue, her flowers, her photos from before the reception. What she didn't get was a party at my expense after my children were insulted. It was one comment. One public comment, Dad. At an event I paid for entirely. An event you and Mom took credit for while contributing nothing. He was quiet for a moment. We thought it would be easier if Jessica didn't know you'd paid. She was already stressed. Easier for whom? You told her you'd handled it. You let her think you were providing this wedding. That's not protecting her from stress. That's taking credit for my generosity. Maybe that's true, he admitted. Your mother and I need to think about a lot of things. About how we've treated you and your work. About what we said to your kids. Yes, you do. Can we talk in person? All of us. Eventually. But not right now. Right now I need some distance. After hanging up, I sat with my coffee, looking out at my backyard where my children would soon be playing. The practical car in the driveway. The modest house that was exactly the right size. The life I had built deliberately on my own terms. My phone showed a new message. Jessica, can we meet for coffee? Just us. I typed back, yes. Let me know when. The wedding had ended badly. Relationships were strained. But my children were safe and they knew without question that I would always protect them. Everything else could be figured out later. The text came through at 2:34 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was at my daughter Emma's school pickup, waiting in the carpool line. My son Jake was already buckled into the back seat, showing me a drawing he'd made in art class. I read the message 3 times. Then I opened my banking app with shaking hands. My vacation savings account, the one I'd been building for 2 years, showed a balance of $247. It had held $15,247 that morning. I'd checked it at breakfast, mentally calculating whether we had enough for a beach week this summer. The withdrawal timestamp, 11:43 a.m. Description, transfer to Linda Chambers. My mother's name. Jake was talking about his drawing, something about dinosaurs and volcanoes. Emma climbed into the car, chattering about her spelling test. I forced myself to smile, to nod, to drive home on autopilot while my mind raced. At home I got the kids settled with snacks and turned on their favorite show. Then I went to my bedroom and called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. Oh good, you saw my text. I was worried you'd be upset, but really this is for the best. You took $15,000 from my account. Borrowed, sweetie. For the family beach trip. You know how expensive these things are, and your brother suggested we all go in together. Well, most of us. We booked that beautiful house in Cape May for the 4th of July week. Remember the one from the rental listing I showed you last Christmas? I remembered. I'd smiled and nodded while she scrolled through photos on her phone. White columns, wraparound porch, private beach access. She'd never mentioned the address, just kept calling it, that gorgeous Cape May property. The property I'd purchased 3 years ago as an investment. The one I rented out through a management company under my LLC's name. The one my family had no idea I owned because I'd kept my real estate investments private after my divorce. You used my money without asking, I said carefully. Well, you weren't using it. And honestly, bringing Emma and Jake would just complicate things. You know how they are. Emma's still in that phase where she cries about everything and Jake can't sit still for 5 minutes. The other kids are older, more mature. This trip is for the adults to actually relax. Emma was 7. Jake was 9. My brother's kids were 8 and 11. My sister's daughter was 10. The other kids are invited, I said flatly. The other kids don't have issues, sweetie. Emma's still seeing that therapist for her anxiety and Jake has that energy problem. We love them, obviously, but this is a vacation, not a therapy session. Emma's anxiety had started after the divorce, when her father moved across the country. Jake didn't have an energy problem. He was a 9-year-old boy who liked sports and building things. When are you going? I asked. July 1st through the 8th. Didn't you read my text? I sent all the details. I had. The group chat I'd been excluded from had been forwarding messages all afternoon. My brother and sister discussing meal plans, activity schedules, who was bringing what. All using money stolen from my account. I need to go, I said. The kids need dinner. Don't be upset, honey. You'll thank me later. Sometimes parents need to make hard choices for the good of everyone. I hung up and sat on my bed for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I called Michael, my property manager. Hey, something's come up with the Cape May house. Who's booked for July 1st through 8th? I heard keyboard clicking. Let me check. Yeah, we have a Linda Chambers party. Booked it 2 weeks ago. 8 adults, 4 children. Why, is there a problem? Cancel it. Cancel? But they already paid the deposit. That's our peak season rate and the cancellation policy. Michael, I own the property. Cancel the reservation. Silence. Then, are you sure? This is $15,000 for the week. If we cancel now, we probably won't fill those dates. I'm sure. Cancel it today. Refund the deposit to the account it came from. My account. Then block Linda Chambers from any future bookings across all our properties. Okay, but they're going to be upset. Do you want me to give a reason? Tell them the owner has decided to use the property personally for that week. Because I am. My kids and I are taking that vacation. Got it. I'll send the cancellation notice within the hour. I thanked him and ended the call. Then I sat there, phone in my hand, waiting. It took 37 minutes. My mother called first. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Then my brother. Then my sister. The group chat exploded with messages. Confused at first, then angry. My sister called. I answered. What did you do? She demanded. The rental company just canceled our reservation. They said the owner needs the property. Did you call them? Did you complain about us? Why would I call them? I don't know. Maybe because you're bitter about not being included? Mom said you were upset, but this is ridiculous. We lost our deposit and now we have to find somewhere else during peak season. Everything's booked or twice the price. They refunded the deposit, I said calmly. That's not the point. We've been planning this for weeks. The kids are devastated. Emma and Jake weren't invited, I said, so I'm sure they'll survive the disappointment. This is so typical of you, making everything about you and your kids. Mom made a practical decision and you had to go nuclear. I took a breath. Did Mom tell you where the $15,000 came from? Pause. She said everyone was contributing. Everyone except me, apparently. She took it from my savings account without asking. A longer pause. You're exaggerating. Mom wouldn't. Check with her. Then we can talk. I hung up. The calls continued through dinner. I put my phone on silent and made pasta with the kids. Jake told me about his friend's birthday party coming up. Emma showed me a book she checked out from the library. Normal, beautiful, uncomplicated. After they went to bed, I checked the messages. 43 unread. The group chat was chaos. My brother had apparently confronted my mother about the money. She'd admitted to the transfer but insisted it was family money, and that I was being selfish as usual. My sister had done the math and realized the rental deposit matched exactly what was taken from my account. Around 10 p.m. my mother called again. I answered. I don't understand why you did this, she said. No apology in her voice, just confusion that I dared to push back. I was going to pay you back eventually. And now you've ruined the whole trip out of spite. You stole from me and excluded my children. Which part shouldn't upset me? I didn't steal. I borrowed. And your kids weren't excluded, they were. It was a matter of fit. The house we'd picked was perfect for calm, mature children. The house you picked, I repeated. The one in Cape May. Yes, the beautiful one with the white porch. We'd been planning. Did the rental company tell you why they canceled? They said the owner needed it personally. Some last-minute thing. But we're looking at other properties now and everything is either booked or ridiculously expensive. Your brother found one for $22,000, but now everyone's fighting about the cost. Why don't you ask the rental company who the owner is? What? Why would I do that? The owner is probably some corporation or investment group. The listing didn't say. The listing shows my LLC's name, Chambers Property Holdings. I registered it after the divorce. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. That's not funny, she finally said. I'm not joking. I bought that house 3 years ago. I rent it through Michael's company. You booked my property using my money to take a vacation without my kids. You're lying. Call Michael at Cape Property Management. Ask him who owns 247 Beach Haven Drive. Ask him why the reservation was canceled. I could hear her breathing sharp and fast. You did this on purpose, she said. You set us up. I had no idea you were booking my property. You never told me the address. You just showed me photos and said, Cape May. I own 3 rental properties in Cape May. I didn't know which one you'd picked until I called Michael today. If you own it, then just let us stay there. Problem solved. No. What do you mean no? It's sitting empty now. We've already planned everything. The kids are excited. My kids are excited too. Emma and Jake are going to love their first beach vacation. We're leaving June 30th, staying through July 8th. You can't do this. I can. I am. I own the house. My children deserve a vacation, especially since their grandmother apparently thinks they're too damaged to include in family events. I never said damaged. You said Emma's anxiety and Jake's energy made them unsuitable for a family trip. You took money from their future, from their mother's savings, to fund a vacation they weren't allowed to attend. And you did it at my property without knowing it. This is cruel, she said, her voice cracking. You're punishing the whole family because of one decision. I'm taking my kids on vacation with money that was stolen from me. That's not punishment. That's justice. Your brother and sister already took time off work. Their kids have been talking about this for weeks. Then you should have included all the grandchildren from the start. We can share the house, she tried. We'll all go. The kids can work it out. No. You made it clear my children aren't welcome. I'm not subjecting them to a week of being treated as lesser than their cousins. So what, we're just supposed to cancel our whole vacation? You're supposed to find a different property and use different money. The $15,000 will be back in my account tomorrow. Use your own savings. He started crying. Real tears, not manipulation. I don't understand how you could do this to your family. I learned from the best, I said quietly and hung up. The next morning, Emma asked why I was smiling at breakfast. Just thinking about something nice, I told her. What something? How would you and Jake like to go to the beach for a week this summer? Their excitement was instantaneous and pure. Jake started listing everything he wanted to do. Emma asked if she could look for shells. Neither of them asked why now, why suddenly we could afford it. They just trusted that if I said we were going, we were going. I spent the afternoon shopping for beach supplies. Sunscreen, sand toys, new swimsuits for both kids. My phone rang constantly. I ignored every call from my family. That evening my sister showed up at my door. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in but didn't offer coffee. Mom told me about the house, she said. I had no idea. None of yous did. Clearly. And the money. I didn't know she'd taken it without asking. That was wrong. I waited. But you have to understand she really didn't mean it maliciously. She just thought the group dynamic would be better without my kids. Without the complications. Emma's been having those meltdowns and Jake is so high energy compared to our kids. Emma had 2 anxiety attacks this year, both related to missing her father. Jake is a normal 9-year-old boy. Neither of them deserve to be excluded. I know it sounds bad when you put it like that. It sounds bad because it is bad. And now you're here to convince me to give up the house. She sighed. Would you consider it? We could all go together. Make it a real family trip. After you spent 2 weeks planning a vacation specifically designed to exclude my children? No. They're kids. They'll get over it. I'm their mother. I won't. She stood up. You're really going to keep the house to yourself? That's incredibly selfish. I'm taking my children on a vacation using my property and my money, the money your mother stole from me. If that's selfish, I'm comfortable with it. After she left, I checked the bank app. The $15,000 was back along with the deposit refund. I transferred it to a new account, one my mother didn't have access to. The family group chat continued its meltdown. My brother called me entitled. My sister said I was destroying family unity. My mother sent a long text about forgiveness and moving forward, never once actually apologizing. I left the group chat. June 30th arrived, warm and clear. I loaded the car with suitcases, coolers, and beach toys. Emma had her stuffed dolphin. Jake had his collection of shark books. They asked questions the whole drive down. Is it really on the beach? Will we see dolphins? Can we build a huge sandcastle? When we pulled up to 247 Beach Haven Drive, both kids gasped. The white columns, the wraparound porch, the private path to the beach. It was even better than the photos. Michael had left a welcome basket. Fresh fruit, local honey, homemade cookies. A note read, "Enjoy your home, boss." We spent the week building sandcastles, collecting shells, watching sunsets from the porch. Emma's anxiety didn't appear once. Jake's energy found perfect outlets in swimming and beach volleyball with other kids staying nearby. They were happy, exhausted, sun-kissed, and loved it. On July 4th we watched fireworks from the beach. Emma fell asleep against my shoulder. Jake was still pointing out the colors, giving each burst a score. My phone buzzed. A photo in the group chat I'd forgotten I'd muted. My family at some generic rental property, crowded around a small table. The caption from my mother, "Making the best of things. Family finds a way." I deleted the notification and took a photo of my kids on our porch, ocean behind them, genuine smiles on their faces. I didn't post it anywhere. Didn't send it to anyone. Just saved it to my favorites. Some victories don't need an audience. Some lessons teach themselves. And some family vacations are better with just the people who actually want you there. The house, my house, stood solid behind us. An investment that had paid off in ways I'd never planned. My children slept soundly that night in rooms meant for them, in a home that welcomed them, on a vacation they'd never forget. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well. And that week we lived very well indeed. The text came through at 6:47 a.m., right as Marcus was tying his shoes for his paper route. He was 12, responsible beyond his years, and had been delivering newspapers for 8 months to save for a bike. I watched him check his delivery bag twice, making sure every paper was accounted for. My sister Jennifer's message sat on my phone screen, cold and calculated. Our family group chat had been buzzing for weeks about the SeaWorld trip. Spring break. All the cousins together. A tradition we'd maintained for 5 years. Except this year apparently my son wasn't welcome. "Mom, I'm heading out," Marcus called from the door. "Be safe, sweetie. Text me when you're halfway done." He nodded and disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness. That kid never complained. Never asked why his cousins got new gaming systems while he saved quarters in a jar. Never questioned why we lived in a modest apartment while Jennifer's family had a 5-bedroom house in the suburbs. I picked up my phone and read the message again. The group chat had gone silent after Jennifer's text. My mother hadn't responded. My brother David hadn't jumped in to defend us. Just silence, which somehow felt worse than agreement. I opened my banking app. The number stared back at me, substantial and untouched. Money from the settlement after my ex-husband's company bought out my shares. Money I'd kept quiet about, living simply, teaching Marcus the value of hard work and humility. Jennifer assumed I was struggling, barely making ends meet as a freelance graphic designer. She had no idea. My fingers moved across the screen. SeaWorld San Diego. VIP private cabana experience. Up-close animal encounters. Personal guide. Reserved seating for shows. Private dolphin interaction session. The total came to $24,800 for the premium package during spring break week. I booked it. Then I replied to the group chat. "I understand. Marcus and I will make our own plans. Have a wonderful time." Jennifer responded immediately. "I knew you'd understand. It's just that our kids have been planning specific rides and shows, and you know how it is with different age groups and interests." My mother chimed in. "Maybe next year when Marcus is a bit older." I didn't respond. I simply forwarded the VIP confirmation email to my private account and went about my morning. The week before spring break, Jennifer posted constantly on social media. Photos of her kids shopping for new swimsuits. Videos of them watching SeaWorld vlogs, planning their strategy for hitting every attraction. Her husband Tom had apparently gotten some deal through his company, discounted tickets for the whole family. Marcus noticed. "Mom, are Aunt Jennifer and the cousins really going to SeaWorld without us?" I looked at my son. This kid who woke up at 5:30 every morning without complaint, who'd saved $217 in 8 months, who never asked for anything. "We're going too, honey. Different days, but we'll be there." His face lit up. "Really? Can we afford it? I've been saving too. And you've worked so hard this year. You deserve something special." The night before our trip I packed carefully. I'd purchased new clothes for both of us. Nothing flashy but quality items. Marcus had been stunned when I told him to take the week off from his paper route. His manager had been understanding, even impressed that a 12-year-old was so dedicated. We flew out Monday morning. Jennifer's family was driving down, planning to arrive Tuesday. My VIP package included airport pickup in a luxury SUV. Marcus pressed his face to the window during the ride, watching San Diego unfold before us. "Mom, this car is really nice." "It's part of our package, sweetie." He looked at me, questions in his eyes, but he didn't push. That was Marcus, patient, trusting. Our hotel was on the bay, a suite with an ocean view. Jennifer had posted about their hotel earlier, a budget chain near the highway. Marcus explored every corner of our room, respectful but clearly amazed. Tuesday morning we arrived at SeaWorld before opening. Our VIP guide, a marine biologist named Patricia, met us at a private entrance. "Welcome. We have an incredible day planned for you both." She led us through areas most visitors never saw, behind-the-scenes looks at animal care facilities, private viewings before the crowds arrived. Marcus asked Patricia 100 questions and she answered each one with genuine enthusiasm. Your son is exceptionally bright, Patricia told me as Marcus watched trainers work with sea lions through a special viewing window. We don't often get young people this engaged with actual marine biology. Around 11 a.m., Patricia guided us to our private cabana. It was positioned perfectly, overlooking the main dolphin pool but separated from the general admission areas. Comfortable seating. A personal attendant. Gourmet lunch service. That's when I saw them. Jennifer's family walking past in the crowd below. Her kids were arguing about something, hot and tired already. Tom was checking his phone, probably looking at wait times. Jennifer was carrying shopping bags, looking frustrated. They hadn't seen us yet. Mom, is that Aunt Jennifer? Marcus had spotted them too. Yes, honey. Should we go say hi? Let's give them space. They're doing their trip. We're doing ours. Patricia returned with information about our private dolphin encounter, scheduled for 2 p.m. This is our most exclusive experience. You'll actually get in the water with our dolphins and work directly with trainers. Most people wait years to book this. At 1:45, we were fitted with wetsuits in a private changing area. Patricia explained the safety procedures and introduced us to the training team. Marcus was vibrating with excitement, asking if he could take photos to show his friends from his paper route. The dolphin pool for our private encounter was visible from certain public viewing areas. I hadn't planned it that way, but as we entered the water, I noticed Jennifer's family had worked their way to the viewing rail. They were eating ice cream, taking a break between shows. And then Jennifer saw us. I watched her face change, confusion first, then recognition. Then something else entirely as she realized we weren't just at the park. We were in the water with dolphins while a team of trainers worked exclusively with us. Marcus was oblivious, completely focused on the dolphins swimming around him. A trainer was showing him hand signals, letting him interact directly with a bottlenose named Splash. My son's face held pure joy. Jennifer grabbed Tom's arm, pointing. Her kids noticed next, pressing against the rail. I could see Jennifer's mouth moving, probably trying to figure out how we were down there. Patricia stood beside me in the water. Your son is a natural. Look how calm he is. The dolphins respond to that energy. He's learned patience from his paper route, I said loud enough that my voice might carry. Up at dawn every day. Rain or shine. Teaching him responsibility. One of the trainers let Marcus help feed Splash. The dolphin responded beautifully and Marcus laughed, the sound echoing across the pool. Jennifer was on her phone now, probably texting me. I'd left my phone in the locker. Our encounter lasted 90 minutes. A private photography session. An educational component. Even a moment where Marcus got to give Splash commands and the dolphin performed perfectly. The trainers applauded. As we exited the pool, dripping and happy, Patricia guided us toward the private changing rooms. We had to pass near the public viewing area. Jennifer was waiting. What are you doing here? I wrapped a towel around Marcus. Having a wonderful time. The VIP experience has been incredible. VIP? You said you couldn't. The group chat, you made it sound like. I said Marcus and I would make our own plans. This is our plan. Tom was staring at the trainer badges Patricia and her team wore. This is the private encounter program. This costs $24,800, Patricia said cheerfully, professional but clearly picking up on the tension. One of our most exclusive offerings. Your sister-in-law booked months ago. Very fortunate to get spring break availability. Jennifer's kids were whining now, asking why Marcus got to swim with dolphins. Tom was doing mental math, probably comparing it to their entire vacation budget. But you're a freelance designer, Jennifer said weakly. You live in that apartment. Marcus delivers newspapers. He does deliver newspapers. At dawn. Every single day. Because I'm teaching him that money isn't everything, but when you have it, you can choose to use it meaningfully. Kept my voice level calm. We live modestly because those are our values, not our limitations. Marcus emerged from the changing room, hair still damp, wearing the complimentary VIP program shirt. He saw his cousins and waved. Hey, this place is amazing. Did you guys see the orcas yet? Jennifer's oldest mumbled something about the lines being too long. We have reserved seating for the orca show at 4, Patricia said, checking her tablet. Front row, private section. Would you like to head there early to meet the training team? Yes, please. Marcus was already walking with Patricia, then stopped. Mom, are you coming? Right behind you, sweetie. I started to follow, then turned back to Jennifer. Your text said Marcus wouldn't fit in. That our kids planned this for months and he just didn't belong. I let that hang in the air. You were right. He doesn't fit in with entitlement. He fits in with people who work hard, stay humble, and appreciate what they have. I didn't mean, Jennifer started. You did mean it. You meant exactly what you said. You assumed that because we live simply and Marcus works hard, we couldn't afford to be included. You decided for us. I adjusted my bag. Marcus will remember this trip forever. Not because of the money spent, but because he learned that hard work and character matter more than showing off. I hope your kids learn something valuable this week too. Tom put his hand on Jennifer's shoulder as I walked away. I heard him say quietly, I told you not to send that text. The rest of our day was spectacular. The orca show from our reserved section. A private sea lion encounter. Dinner at the park's premium restaurant, where the chef came out to meet Marcus and talk about sustainable seafood. Patricia stayed with us until closing, making sure every moment was perfect. As we rode back to our hotel, Marcus was quiet, processing everything. Mom. Yes, honey. Aunt Jennifer didn't want me to come on the family trip, did she? I took a breath. No, sweetie. She didn't. Because she thought we were too poor? Something like that. He was quiet for another moment. But we're not poor. No, we're not. But we also don't need to prove that to anyone. We live the way we do because I want you to understand that character and hard work matter more than impressing people. Is that why you let me keep doing the paper route even though we don't need the money? Smart kid. Yes. Because the money you're earning isn't the point. The discipline, the responsibility, the pride in doing something well. That's the point. I like the paper route, he said. Even when it's cold. I know you do. And that's why today was special. Not because of the dolphins or the VIP treatment, but because you've earned the right to enjoy something without guilt, because you know the value of hard work. We spent the rest of the week at SeaWorld, using every aspect of our VIP package. We saw Jennifer's family twice more. Once at a show where they were in the general seating while we were in the VIP section, and once at a restaurant, where they were waiting in a long line while we were seated immediately in a reserved area. Each time Jennifer looked away. Her kids stared. Tom nodded at me once, a gesture that might have been respect or might have been embarrassment. Marcus never gloated. Never mentioned it to his cousins. He just enjoyed the experience with the same quiet gratitude he brought to everything else. On our last day, Patricia gave Marcus a certificate and a special photo book documenting our encounters. You're one of the most memorable guests we've hosted, she told him. Your questions, your respect for the animals, your genuine enthusiasm. Please stay curious about marine biology. On the flight home, Marcus studied every photo and read every educational card Patricia had given him. Mom, thank you. This was the best trip ever. You're welcome, honey. You deserved it. My phone had 43 unread messages. Most were from Jennifer, progressing from confused to defensive to something that might have been apologetic. A few were from my mother asking what was going on. One was from David, heard about SeaWorld. Jennifer's kids won't stop talking about Marcus's VIP experience. Maybe next time include the whole family. I didn't respond to any of them. When we got home, Marcus asked if he could start his paper route again the next morning. Already? Don't you want a few days off? The customers depend on me, Mom. I told them I'd only be gone a week. That night I updated my will, setting up a trust that Marcus would access at 25, money for college, for his future, for whatever dreams he wanted to pursue. But until then we'd keep living in our modest apartment. He'd keep delivering papers. We'd keep living by our values. Jennifer's text sat in my phone unanswered. Your son won't fit in at SeaWorld. He was right. He didn't fit in with her version of family. He fit in somewhere better. With people who measured worth by character, not by showmanship. And I'd never been more proud of that fact in my life. Marcus was up at 5:30 the next morning, ready for his route. I made him breakfast and watched him head out into the dawn, responsible, humble, and kind. My phone buzzed. Jennifer again. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Maybe someday. But not today. Today I was just grateful for my son. who knew the value of hard work, who appreciated every gift, who stayed kind even when others weren't. That was worth more than any VIP experience could ever cost. The paint swatches fanned across the kitchen table like a deck of cards. Soft yellows, pale greens, gentle grays. My sister Jennifer held them up to the afternoon light streaming through the window, her other hand resting on her barely visible baby bump. "We're making your daughter's room the new nursery," she announced, not looking at me. "Derek and I have been talking and it just makes the most sense. The room gets perfect morning light and it's right next to ours." I set down my coffee cup slowly. My daughter Sophia was upstairs in that room right now, probably doing homework at the desk we'd moved in 3 months ago when we relocated here. The desk she'd specifically chosen because it fit perfectly under the window. "And where should she go?" I asked, keeping my voice level. Mom looked up from her tablet, barely interested. "The basement's free. There's that finished room down there. She's 16. She'll probably love having her own space away from everyone." The basement room. The one with the tiny window near the ceiling, the persistent smell of laundry detergent, and the furnace that kicked on every 40 minutes with a sound like a small airplane taking off. Jennifer was already making notes on her phone. "We'll need to start soon. The baby's due in 6 months and Derek's mom says nursery prep takes forever. We're thinking a gender-neutral theme. Something with animals, maybe." "Sophia pays $2,200 a month to stay here," I said quietly. Mom waved her hand dismissively. "That's just household fees. Everyone contributes. This is still our family home." Our family home. The phrase settled in my chest like a stone. I'd been paying those household fees since we'd moved in after my divorce. $2,200 every month, transferred like clockwork on the first. For a single bedroom, shared bathroom access, and the privilege of walking on eggshells around my sister's mood swings and my mother's passive-aggressive commentary. "We'll help her move her stuff," Jennifer offered as if that made it generous. "Maybe this weekend? That gives us time to get measurements for the new furniture." I looked at my daughter's closed bedroom door upstairs. Behind it were 3 months of careful arrangement. Her art prints on the walls, fairy lights she'd strung around the window, the small bookshelf we'd assembled together. She'd been so excited about that room. It was the first thing that had made her smile after the divorce. "When were you planning to ask Sophia about this?" I said. Jennifer finally looked at me, eyebrows raised. "She's a teenager. Teenagers love basements. It's like having an apartment. With a furnace and no real windows." "There's a window," Mom interjected. "Don't be dramatic. You're making this difficult when we're trying to accommodate everyone." Accommodate everyone. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 3 months of transfers. September 1st, October 1st, November 1st. $2,200 each time, labeled household contribution. "I need to think about this," I said. Jennifer's face hardened. "Think about what?" "We're family. The baby needs a proper nursery. Sophia's room is the only one that makes sense, unless you think a newborn should go in the basement." The guilt trip. I'd been expecting it. My sister had perfected the art of making her needs everyone else's emergency. When she'd moved back home 2 years ago after her engagement ended, Mom had rearranged everything to accommodate her. When Derek joined 6 months later, they'd taken over the master suite. Now a baby meant another reorganization, and somehow we were the ones expected to shrink further. "Let me talk to Sophia," I said, standing up. "Don't make this into something it's not," Mom called after me. "We're just being practical." I climbed the stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. How many times had I made this walk over the past 3 months? How many times had I passed Jennifer's closed door, hearing her and Derek's laughter inside, while Sophia and I shared the smaller bathroom down the hall with Mom? I knocked on Sophia's door. "Honey, can I come in?" "Yeah." She was at her desk, exactly where I'd pictured her, chemistry textbook open. The fairy lights cast a warm glow across her workspace. She'd put up some new photos since yesterday, printed pictures from the fall dance. "What's up?" she asked, spinning in her chair. I sat on the edge of her bed. "Your aunt wants to turn this room into a nursery." Sophia's face went blank. "What?" "She's pregnant. They want to put the baby in here." "Where am I supposed to go?" "They suggested the basement." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she started laughing, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Of course they did. The basement. Because I'm just the charity case who should be grateful for any corner they give us. Sophia. No, Mom. Don't. She turned back to her desk, fingers drumming against her textbook. I heard Aunt Jennifer last week telling Derek that we were temporary. That you'd find your own place soon and they'd have the whole house for their family. My stomach dropped. She said that. I wasn't supposed to hear. But yeah. Sophia's voice cracked slightly. I know we're not really wanted here. I just thought maybe this room could be mine for a little while. I looked around at everything she'd built here, the small sanctuary she'd created, and I made a decision. Pack your important things, I said. We're leaving. What? Not everything. Just what matters to you. Clothes, schoolwork, personal items. We're moving out. Sophia's eyes widened. Right now. Right now. But where will we go? I have some money saved. We'll get a hotel tonight, figure out an apartment tomorrow. I stood up, suddenly filled with clarity. We're not staying where we're treated like burdens. Mom, the lease. There is no lease. Just month-to-month household fees. I pulled out my phone again, opening my contacts. Start packing. I'm making some calls. For the next 2 hours we moved with quiet efficiency. Sophia filled her school backpack and a duffel bag with clothes. I packed our bathroom essentials, important documents and laptops. We weren't loud about it. We simply moved through the house like ghosts, carrying bags to my car. Jennifer found us loading the trunk. What are you doing? Moving out, I said, not stopping. You can't just leave. We had an agreement. Month-to-month household fees. I paid through November. It's November 28th. Consider this my notice for December. Mom appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. This is ridiculous. You're throwing a tantrum over a room. We're leaving, I said simply. Sophia, anything else? Got it all, she called from upstairs. Jennifer followed me to the car. You're really going to do this? Leave your family over a nursery? I closed the trunk and faced her. You wanted the room. You got it. Congratulations. Where will you even go? That's not your concern anymore. We drove away as the sun was setting. Sophia was quiet in the passenger seat, watching the house disappear in the side mirror. Mom, she said after a few minutes. Thank you. We checked into a decent extended stay hotel. 2 beds, a kitchenette, and a bathroom that was entirely ours. Sophia claimed the bed near the window and immediately plugged in her fairy lights. They looked different here but still beautiful. My phone buzzed around 9. Mom, you've made your point. Come back and we'll discuss this properly. I didn't respond. The next morning I started apartment hunting in earnest. Sophia went to school from the hotel, catching the bus from the corner. I spent the day viewing places, calculating budgets and filling out applications. My phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. Unknown number. Hello. Hi, is this Mrs. Peterson? A woman's voice, professional and slightly stressed. Yes. This is Amanda Chin from Lux Interiors. I'm calling about the nursery renovation at 847 Maple Street. We have a quote ready, but I wanted to confirm a few details about the scope of work before finalizing. I pulled over into a parking lot. I think you want to speak with Jennifer Warren. She's the one planning the nursery. Yes, I've been working with Jennifer. But the account information we have on file shows you as the primary resident and financial contact. The renovation estimate is $42,000, and we need to schedule the initial payment and confirm the timeline. $42,000 for paint and furniture and whatever else Jennifer had been planning. I'm sorry, I said slowly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I don't live at that address anymore. I moved out yesterday. There was a pause. Oh. Does Jennifer Warren have alternate payment arrangements? Because our records show the household account in your name for the consultation fee and deposit hold. What deposit hold? The initial consultation deposit. $5,000. It was processed last week from the household account ending in 4782. My household account, the one I'd set up to autopay the monthly fees. I didn't authorize any deposit, I said. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Well, this is awkward. I should probably speak with Jennifer directly about payment arrangements, then. Yes, I said. You definitely should. I sat in that parking lot for 10 minutes after hanging up, processing what had just happened. Jennifer had somehow accessed the household account, the one I'd been using to pay our monthly fees, and put down a $5,000 deposit on a renovation. Without asking, without mentioning it, my phone buzzed. Mom, we need to talk about the account situation. Then Jennifer, there's been a misunderstanding with the designer. Can you call me? I didn't respond to either message. Instead, I called my bank. I need to close an account and stop all future payments, I told the representative. Certainly. Can you verify the account number? I read it off. The same account I'd been using for those monthly $2,200 transfers. And can you tell me the recent transaction history? I asked. The representative read it back. 3 months of my transfers. Then buried in between smaller transactions I didn't recognize. 200 here, 300 there, all marked as household expenses. And the big one, $5,000 to Lux Interiors. How much is currently in this account? I asked. $742. Almost 8 months of my contributions, drained to nearly nothing. I'd been putting in $2,200 a month, thinking it was covering our share of utilities, groceries, and general household costs. Instead, it had become a slush fund. Close it, I said. Transfer the remaining balance to my personal checking and close the account. Done. Is there anything else? Yes. I need documentation of all transactions for the past 6 months emailed to me. I hung up and finally responded to Mom. The household account is closed. Any outstanding expenses are not my responsibility. My phone immediately started ringing. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then a text from Jennifer. You can't just abandon family obligations. That deposit was for your benefit too. For my benefit. A nursery that required my daughter to move to the basement was somehow for my benefit. I blocked the number and kept driving. Sophia got home from school at 4, finding me surrounded by apartment listings at the hotel's small desk. Any luck? She asked. 3 possibilities. We're viewing them tomorrow after school. She dropped her backpack and sat on her bed. Aunt Jennifer texted me. Said you were being unreasonable and that we need to come back. What did you say? I blocked her. Sophia smiled slightly. Is that bad? Not even a little bit. My phone buzzed again, this time a different number. I answered cautiously. Mrs. Peterson? This is Amanda Chin again from Lux Interiors. I've spoken with Jennifer Warren, and there seems to be significant confusion about the project financing. She indicated you were the primary financial contributor to the household and would be covering the renovation costs. Is that accurate? No, I said firmly. I moved out of that residence. I have no financial obligation to any renovations there. I see. And the $5,000 deposit that was processed from your account. Unauthorized. I've closed that account. A long sigh. Mrs. Peterson, I appreciate your honesty. Jennifer is now claiming she can't cover the costs and that you committed to the project. Can you confirm in writing that you had no knowledge of this project or its associated costs? Absolutely. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. We'll be pursuing the deposit recovery and canceling the project. After I hung up, Sophia looked at me with something like awe. What just happened? Your aunt tried to renovate a nursery on my dime without asking. The designer just figured out the money isn't coming. Good, Sophia said firmly. Then quieter. Is that mean that I'm glad? Not mean. Honest. We ordered pizza that night, eating it cross-legged on our hotel beds while watching a movie on Sophia's laptop. It was cramped and temporary and uncertain, but it was ours. No walking on eggshells. No passive-aggressive comments. No being made to feel small in spaces we paid to occupy. My phone buzzed one more time. Mom, the designer is demanding the deposit back. Jennifer is very upset. This affects the whole family. You need to fix this. I typed back slowly, carefully. I paid $6,600 over 3 months for a room you gave away without consultation. I paid into an account that was drained without my knowledge. I'm not fixing anything. Good luck with the nursery. Then I muted the conversation and put my phone away. Sophia looked over at me. What happens now? Now. I pulled out the apartment listings. We find somewhere that's actually ours. Somewhere nobody can take your room away. Will they keep calling? Probably. For a while. And then. And then they'll figure out what $42,000 looks like when you're actually responsible for it yourself. Sophia smiled, really smiled, for the first time in 3 months. Can I have fairy lights in the new place? You can have whatever lights you want, I promised. It'll be your room. Really yours. No one's taking it away. Outside, the city lights were coming on. Tomorrow would bring apartment viewings, paperwork, and the logistics of actually rebuilding. But tonight, in this small hotel room, we'd already done the most important thing. We'd left. The smell of pot roast filled my parents' dining room, but the atmosphere was anything but warm. My daughter sat across from me, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth as my mother cleared her throat in that particular way that meant trouble was coming. So, Emma, my mother began, setting down her wine glass with deliberate precision. You're 18 now. An adult. Emma nodded slowly, glancing at me with uncertainty in her eyes. I kept my expression neutral, though I could sense where this was headed. Which means, my mother continued, it's time you started contributing to this household. My father nodded in agreement, cutting into his meat. Your grandmother's right. We've been more than generous letting you stay here rent-free. I watched Emma's face pale. She'd been living with my parents for the past year while attending community college, an arrangement I'd facilitated after my divorce. What my parents didn't know, what I'd deliberately kept from them, was the financial reality of their situation. I'm still in school, Emma said quietly. I work part-time at the bookstore, but... Then you'll need to work more hours, my mother interrupted. Starting next month, we expect $500. Monthly. Or you'll need to find somewhere else to live. Emma's hands started shaking. She set down her fork and I could see tears forming in her eyes. This was exactly the kind of power play my mother had perfected over the years, the same tactics she'd used on me throughout my childhood. Mom, I said calmly, perhaps we should discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss, my father said. She's an adult. Adults pay their way. We did at her age. In 1978, I pointed out. When rent was $90 a month and minimum wage could actually cover living expenses. My mother waved her hand dismissively. Excuses. We didn't raise you to make excuses, and I won't watch you raise Emma to be entitled. I took a slow breath, setting down my own fork. You're right. We should review the household expenses. Get everything out in the open. My mother smiled triumphantly. Exactly. Emma needs to understand that housing costs money. Speaking of housing costs, I said, reaching for my bag, let's talk about the payments on this house. My father frowned. What payments? We paid off the mortgage years ago. I pulled out my laptop, opening it slowly. Did you? The room went quiet. Emma looked at me with confusion while my parents exchanged glances. What are you implying? My mother asked, her voice sharp. I turned the laptop screen toward them, pulling up my banking records. This house hasn't been paid off. You refinanced in 2019 for the kitchen renovation and Europe trip, then stopped making payments in 2020 when Dad's consulting work dried up. My father's face went red. That's none of your business. It became my business when you called me crying about foreclosure notices, I said evenly. Emma stared at me, then at her grandparents. Grandma. My mother wouldn't meet her eyes. I clicked through my banking records. September 2020, I paid 3 months of back payments, $7,200. Then every month since, $2,400 monthly for 5 years. Stop, my mother whispered. My father stood up abruptly. You had no right to save your house. Keep you from becoming homeless. I closed the laptop. You're right. I should have let the bank take it. How much? Emma asked quietly. Total? $147,600. The number hung in the air like smoke. My mother's face had gone from flushed to pale, her hand gripping the stem of her wine glass so tightly I thought it might snap. We were going to, my mother started. It's been 5 years. 5 years of me paying while you took vacations, bought a new car and redecorated. Emma pushed her chair back. So when Grandma said I needed to contribute, she meant you should pay rent for the house that I actually pay for, I finished. My mother's voice came out strangled. This is different. We're family. Emma is also family, I said. But apparently family loyalty only flows in one direction. My father sat back down heavily. We didn't know you couldn't afford it. I can afford it, I corrected. But you've been taking advantage. I've tracked every payment, every expense. Property taxes, insurance, even the groceries I have delivered monthly. Why are you doing this? My mother demanded, tears running down her face. Because you demanded rent from my 18-year-old daughter while living in a house I pay for, I said quietly. Emma's voice was small. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't your burden to carry, I said, looking at my daughter. And because I knew if your grandparents understood that I was handling it, they might actually start handling their own finances responsibly. My father's head was in his hands. What do you want from us? I want you to apologize to Emma, I said. I want you to acknowledge that she's been nothing but respectful and helpful since she moved in. I want you to recognize that she does contribute. She helps with cleaning, does yard work, and runs errands. And most importantly, I want you to understand that she's not the one who needs to start paying rent. My mother's face crumpled. We can't afford the mortgage. Not on our own. I know, I said. Which is why I've been paying it. But here's what's going to change. Starting next month, I'm going to continue making the payment, but it's going to be documented as a loan, with interest and a repayment schedule. My father looked up. We can't repay that kind of money. Then you have options, I said. You can sell this house, downsize to something you can actually afford and use the equity to repay me. Or you can stay here and when you eventually pass away, the debt will be settled from your estate before anything else is distributed. My mother gasped. You're taking our inheritance? I'm taking repayment for money I loaned you, I corrected. Money you used to maintain a lifestyle you couldn't afford while looking down on others whom you deemed financially irresponsible. I stood up, closing my laptop. Emma, get your things. You're coming home with me. Emma didn't hesitate. She stood, dropping her napkin on the table. Wait, my father said. She doesn't have to leave. We won't charge her rent. No, I said. She doesn't. But she also doesn't need to stay in a home where her own grandparents see her as a financial burden rather than a beloved family member. She'll stay with me until she's ready to get her own place. My mother was crying openly now. Please. We didn't mean it. We were just trying to teach her responsibility. By threatening to make her homeless? I asked. That's not teaching responsibility. That's cruelty. Emma moved around the table, standing beside me. She looked at her grandparents and I saw something in her expression that broke my heart. Disappointment mingled with pity. I did the dishes every night, Emma said quietly. I cleaned the bathrooms every week. I did the grocery shopping because Grandma said her knees hurt. I mowed the lawn all summer. I thought I was contributing. You were, I said firmly. More than they deserved. We walked toward the door together. Behind us, I could hear my mother's choked sobs and my father's heavy breathing. One more thing, I said, turning back. I'll be sending you legal documents next week. Everything will be properly drawn up by a lawyer. You'll have the option to sign them and keep the house or refuse and face immediate cessation of payments. Your choice. My father's voice was hoarse. How did it come to this? It came to this, I said. The moment you decided that demanding money from a teenager was more acceptable than admitting you needed help from your own daughter. It came to this when pride became more important than family. I opened the door, letting the cool evening air wash over us. Emma stepped outside and I followed, pulling the door closed behind us with a soft click that felt like a final punctuation mark. In my car, Emma sat quietly before speaking. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't your burden, I said, starting the engine. That's adult business. But now I'm an adult, she said. Now you know what real responsibility looks like, handling things quietly without expecting praise. Emma was quiet. Are you really going to make them sign loan documents? Yes. They need to understand that actions have consequences. Will they sign? Probably. The alternative is losing everything. We drove in silence, the lights blurring past. Thank you, Emma finally said. For standing up for me. Always. That's what mothers do. My phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father, and unread text messages. Emma saw them. Are you going to answer? Eventually. But not tonight. Tonight they sit with what they've done. What comes next? Emma asked. I smiled. For you. Focus on school and work. Live your life without their expectations. You're 18. Worry about exams and dating, not rent from grandparents who depend on charity. We pulled into my driveway, the porch light warm and welcoming. Home, I said. Emma looked at the house. Yeah. Home. Inside, I made tea while Emma went to get her things from the guest room where she'd stayed during school breaks. When she came back down with her laptop, she looked determined. I want to see them, she said. The payment records. I pulled up the files, spreading them across the kitchen table. Emma pored over them, her finger tracing the columns of numbers, her expression growing more stunned with each line. You've been doing this since I was 13, she said finally. Yes. And they never once said thank you? They said thank you the first few months, I admitted. Then it became expected. Then it became something we didn't discuss. Emma closed the laptop. I'm never doing that. Doing what? Taking advantage of someone's kindness. Treating generosity like it's owed to me. She looked at me with fierce determination in her eyes. If you're going to teach me one thing about being an adult, let it be that. I pulled her into a hug, feeling the familiar weight of her head against my shoulder, the way she'd fit there since she was small. You already know that, I said. You've always known that. That's why you were so scared tonight when Grandma demanded rent. What happens now? Emma asked, pulling back to look at me. Now, I said, I call a lawyer on Monday morning. I get everything documented properly with legal paperwork. I send the papers to your grandparents. And we wait to see what they choose to do. And if they choose to sell the house? Then they sell it, I said. They find somewhere they can actually afford to live. And maybe, just maybe, they learn something important about living within their means and treating family with respect. My phone rang again. This time it was a FaceTime call from my father. I looked at Emma, who nodded her approval. I answered. My father's face filled the screen, haggard and older than I'd ever seen him look. Deep lines creased his forehead. Please, he said, his voice rough. Come back. Let's talk about this like a family. There's nothing more to talk about tonight, I said calmly. You threatened to make my daughter homeless. There's no conversation that fixes that immediately. We weren't going to actually kick her out, he protested weakly. Then why say it? I asked. Why make that threat? What did you think was going to happen when you demanded rent? He had no answer. Monday, I said. I'll call you Monday after I've spoken with my lawyer. Until then, I suggest you and Mom have a serious conversation about your finances, your priorities, and what matters most to you. I ended the call before he could respond. Emma was watching me with something like awe. You're really not going to back down? No, I said. I'm not. Because if I back down now, nothing changes. They'll apologize, promise to do better, and within 6 months we'll be right back here. The only difference is that next time you might not call me. Next time you might just accept their demands and struggle alone. I would have called you, Emma said. Maybe, I agreed. But you shouldn't have to. You should be able to trust that your family won't exploit you. And the only way to establish that trust is to enforce boundaries now. We stayed up late that night talking about everything and nothing that mattered. Emma told me about her classes, her dreams of transferring to a 4-year university someday, her hopes for the future, and the career she wanted to build. I listened, offering advice when asked, mostly just being present and supportive. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text message from my mother. We'll sign whatever you want. Just please don't hate us. I showed it to Emma. Do you hate them? She asked. No, I said honestly. I'm disappointed. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I don't hate them. They're my parents. They're flawed human beings who made bad choices. But they're still family. Even after all this? Even after this, I confirmed. But family doesn't mean accepting abuse. Family doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. Family means loving people enough to hold them accountable. Emma nodded slowly. That's what you're doing. Holding them accountable. That's what I'm doing, I agreed. I typed back a response. Monday. We'll discuss everything Monday. Then I turned off my phone, poured us both more tea, and we sat together in the quiet comfort of a home built on honesty rather than pretense. It wasn't the ending my parents wanted. It wasn't the dramatic reconciliation that movies promised. But it was real, and it was necessary, and it was just the beginning of a new understanding of what family actually meant.